help me reach 1,000 subscribers. Please like the video and share your thoughts on the video. Your feedback helps make the contents better. Now let's get to the story.
I pulled into the gravel driveway of my lake house, the tires crunching so loud in the quiet morning that birds scattered from the trees. The air smelled like pine and fresh water, and I was smiling, thinking about the deck renovation I'd planned with the contractor. Then I saw it, a silver Mercedes parked next to the dock, one I didn't recognize. Through the bay window, I could see two figures pressed against each other on my leather couch. My daughter-in-law, Jessica, her blonde hair unmistakable even from outside, wrapped around some man who definitely wasn't my son. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut, and I knew right then that everything was about to change. My name is Robert Mitchell. I'm 58 years old, and I've spent the last 30 years building my construction company from the ground up. My hands are calloused from the early days when I worked alongside my crews, and I still can't resist checking the quality of a weld or the straightness of a wall. People say I'm too detail-oriented, that I can't let things go, but that attention to detail made me successful. I'm a widower, lost my wife Sarah to cancer 6 years ago, and my son Daniel is the only family I have left, or so I thought family meant something. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these stories matter. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. Daniel met Jessica 4 years ago at some corporate networking event. She worked in marketing for a pharmaceutical company, always dressed sharp, always said the right things. I'll admit I had my doubts from the start. Something about the way her smile never quite reached her eyes, the way she'd check her phone constantly during family dinners. But Daniel was head over heels, and after Sarah died, I'd promised myself I'd support my son no matter what, so I smiled and welcomed her into the family. They got married 2 years ago at a venue that cost more than my first house. Jessica wanted everything perfect, everything expensive. The flowers alone were $15,000. I paid for half the wedding, told myself it was an investment in my son's happiness. Daniel worked as an architect at a respected firm downtown, made good money, but Jessica's taste was always just beyond their budget. Designer bags, luxury vacations, a new BMW every 2 years. I watched my son work longer hours, take on extra projects, stress himself thin trying to keep up with her lifestyle. The lake house was my retreat. I'd built it myself 20 years ago, back when Sarah was still alive. Every board, every nail, every window had a memory attached. It was supposed to be a family place, somewhere Daniel could bring his kids someday. I'd given him and Jessica a key, told them to use it whenever they wanted. I thought I was being generous. Turned out I was just making it easier for her to stab my son in the back. That Tuesday morning, I wasn't supposed to be there. The contractor, Mike Rodriguez, had called to reschedule our 10 o'clock meeting to noon, but I'd already been halfway there, and I figured I'd just wait, maybe do some fishing. The lake was calm, the kind of glassy surface that reflected the sky perfectly. It should have been peaceful. Instead, I was watching my son's marriage explode through a window. I sat in my truck for a solid 5 minutes, my heart hammering against my ribs. Part of me wanted to storm in there, to shout and break things, but I'm not that kind of man. I've always believed in thinking before acting, in making the right move at the right time. So I pulled out my phone and I started taking pictures. The silver Mercedes license plate, the clear view through the window. I even walked around to the side deck where I could get a better angle. My hands were shaking so bad I had to brace the phone against the railing, but I got what I needed. Then I knocked on the front door. 3 solid raps that echoed across the water. The scrambling inside sounded like a tornado hit, furniture scraping, footsteps pounding, voices whispering harsh and panicked. When Jessica finally opened the door, her lipstick was smeared, her blouse was buttoned wrong, and her face had gone paper white. "Robert," she breathed, and I could smell her perfume, that expensive stuff that probably cost $200 an ounce, mixed with sweat and fear. "I didn't know you were coming." Clearly, I kept my voice level, cold as the lake water in January. The man appeared behind her, fumbling with his belt buckle. He was younger than me, maybe 40, with slicked back hair and a suit that screamed money. He had the decency to look terrified. "Mr. Mitchell, I can explain," Jessica started. "Don't." I held my hand. "I don't want to hear it, but I'm curious about one thing. What's your name?" I looked at the man. Travis. Travis Brennan." His voice cracked on his own name. "Married, Travis?" His face somehow got paler. "Yes, sir." "Kids?" "2 daughters." I nodded slowly, like I was processing construction plans in my head. "Here's what's gonna happen. You gonna leave. Jessica, you gonna lock up my house, and you gonna think very carefully about what happens next."
Jessica grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. "Please, Robert, please don't tell Daniel. It was a mistake. It'll never happen again. I love your son. I swear I do." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. Her eyes were wet with tears that I didn't believe for a second. "You love him? You love my son so much you're sleeping with another man in his father's house? It just happened. It didn't mean anything. Get your hand off me." My voice came out like gravel. "And get out of my house." Travis was already halfway to his Mercedes, practically running. Jessica stood there for another moment, mascara starting to run, mouth opening and closing like she was trying to find words that would fix this. There were no words. Finally, she grabbed her purse and followed him out. I watched them leave, then went inside. The house smelled different now, tainted. The leather couch where I'd watched football games with Daniel, where Sarah used to read her mystery novels, where we'd planned family Christmases, was wrinkled and warm. I felt sick. But I didn't call Daniel, not yet. Instead, I sat down at the kitchen table, pulled out my laptop, and I started digging. If there's one thing I learned in business, it's that you never make a move until you know everything. Travis Brennan, I discovered, was a VP at a medical device company, married to a woman named Catherine for 16 years. His social media was full of family photos, beach vacations, posts about his daughter's soccer games. Mr. Family Man. The hypocrisy made my blood boil. It took me 3 hours and a call to a private investigator I'd used for background checks on business partners, but I got Catherine Brennan's phone number. I also got something else, something that made this whole situation even worse. Travis Brennan's company did business with Jessica's pharmaceutical firm. They'd met at a conference 8 months ago. 8 months! This wasn't some one-time mistake. This was a sustained betrayal, planned and deliberate. I made the call. "Hello?" A woman's voice, pleasant, unsuspecting. "Mrs. Brennan? Catherine? My name is Robert Mitchell. You don't know me, but I have something you need to know about your husband." The silence on the other end was heavy. "What kind of something?" "The kind that involves my lake house, my daughter-in-law, and your husband's inability to keep his wedding vows. I have photos, I have evidence, and I think you deserve to know the truth." What happened next wasn't screaming or crying. Catherine Brennan's voice went cold and sharp as a knife. "Send me everything." I did. Every photo, every detail, the timeline I'd built. Then I called Daniel. "Dad?" He sounded happy, distracted. "What's up? I'm just leaving the office." "Son, I need you to come to the lake house right now. Don't tell Jessica. This is important." The drive gave me time to figure out what to say. How do you tell your only child that his wife is cheating on him? That the woman he trusted, the woman he'd built a life with, had been lying to his face for months? There's no good way. You just have to say it and watch their world fall apart. Daniel pulled up 2 hours later in his Audi, the one with the car payment that stretched his budget. He stepped out looking concerned but not alarmed, and seeing his face, so much like Sarah's, made my chest tight. Dad, what's going on? You sounded weird on the phone. I handed him my phone with the photos pulled up. I watched my son's face change. Confusion first, then recognition, then this horrible moment where understanding crashed over him like a wave. His skin went gray. His hand holding the phone started to shake so badly I thought he'd drop it. When? His voice was barely a whisper. This morning. I wasn't supposed to be here. The contractor rescheduled, but I came early. Daniel scrolled through the photos, and each one seemed to hit him like a physical blow. 8 months? They've been for 8 months? According to my investigator, yes. He sat down hard on the porch steps, put his head in his hands. The sound he made wasn't quite a sob, wasn't quite a scream. It was the sound of a man's heart breaking in real time. I sat next to him, put my hand on his shoulder, and we stayed like that while the sun moved across the sky. I worked so hard, he finally said. Every promotion, every extra project, every weekend at the office, I did it for her, to give her the life she wanted. And she was with him? I'm sorry, son. Does she know you saw? Does she know you're telling me? I didn't make any promises. Daniel looked at me, and there was something new in his eyes, something harder than I'd ever seen in my gentle, artistic son. What did you do, Dad? I called Travis Brennan's wife, gave her all the evidence. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Good. That's good. What else can we do? And that's when I knew my son wasn't just going to roll over and take this. He was his father's child, after all. We spent the next 3 days planning. Daniel moved into my main house in the suburbs, couldn't stand to be in the apartment with Jessica. She'd been calling him non-stop, but he wasn't answering. Let her sweat. Let her wonder what was coming.
The revenge wasn't about just exposing an affair. It was about dismantling the illusion Jessica had built, piece by piece, and making sure everyone knew exactly who she really was. First, we needed allies. Daniel called his best friend Marcus, who also happened to be a divorce attorney. Marcus was a bulldog in a suit, the kind of lawyer who smiled while he destroyed you in court. He came over that evening with a bottle of whiskey and a briefcase full of forms. "Brother, I'm so sorry," Marcus said, pulling Daniel into a hug. "But we're going to make this right. By the time I'm done, she'll regret ever crossing you." Marcus laid it out. In our state, adultery affected alimony. With the evidence we had, Jessica wouldn't see a dime. Better yet, the apartment they rented, Daniel's name was the only one on the lease. The BMW she drove, leased in his name. Her credit cards, tied to his accounts. We could cut her off completely, legally, and there was nothing she could do about it. "I want her to feel what I felt," Daniel said, his voice hard. "That moment when everything you thought was solid just disappears." "Oh, she will," Marcus promised. "Trust me." The second ally came from an unexpected place. Catherine Brennan called me 2 days after our first conversation. "Mr. Mitchell, I want to thank you, and I want to help." "Help how?" "My husband is about to lose everything, his job, his reputation, his family. But that woman, Jessica, she's going to walk away and do this to someone else unless we make sure people know what she is. I've been doing some digging of my own." It turned out Catherine was a PR executive, and she knew how to destroy a reputation. She'd found Jessica's social media, her professional profiles, her network of friends and colleagues, and she had a plan. The thing about revenge is that it's not just about making someone pay, it's about justice. It's about making sure the person who wronged you faces real consequences, the kind that stick. And sometimes the best revenge is just letting the truth come out in the most devastating way possible. We set the trap carefully. Daniel finally responded to Jessica's calls, told her he wanted to talk, to work things out. She probably thought she'd dodged a bullet. They agreed to meet at a nice restaurant downtown, the kind with white tablecloths and wine lists that cost more than most people's car payments. Jessica loved that place. What she didn't know was that Catherine Brennan had booked the table right next to theirs, or that Marcus was having dinner across the room with his wife, ready to serve papers if needed, or that I was sitting at the bar with my phone ready to record every second. I want to take a moment here because what happens next is absolutely wild, and you're not going to believe how perfectly this karma came together. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now, because this revenge is about to get even sweeter, and you don't want to miss a single detail of how this all unfolds. Jessica walked in looking like $1,000,000. Red dress, heels that clicked on the marble floor, hair and makeup perfect. She dressed up like this was a reconciliation, like she could seduce her way out of consequences. Daniel, to his credit, looked calm. He'd worn the suit I bought him for college graduation, the one Sarah had cried happy tears over. They sat down. I watched Jessica reach across the table for Daniel's hand, watched him pull away slightly. She ordered wine, expensive wine, and started talking fast. I couldn't hear everything from the bar, but I caught phrases: mistake, meant nothing, love you so much, the same lies she'd probably told Travis Brennan's wife. Then Catherine Brennan walked in. She was a tall woman, elegant, with dark hair and the kind of presence that turned heads. She walked straight to Jessica and Daniel's table and stopped. Jessica looked up, confused at first. Then I saw recognition flash across her face. She'd met Catherine at some company event, probably smiled and shaken her hand while sleeping with her husband. "Jessica, right?" Catherine's voice carried across the restaurant, clear and cold. "I wanted to introduce myself properly. I'm Catherine Brennan, Travis's wife. I believe you know him pretty well." The restaurant got quiet. That special kind of quiet where everyone pretends they're not listening, but every ear is tuned in. Jessica's face went from white to red. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really? Because my husband told me everything after I showed him the photos from the lake house, after I filed for divorce, after I informed his company's board about his affair with a business contact, which violates about 6 different ethics policies." Catherine smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "He's been fired, by the way, and I'm getting the house, the cars, and full custody of our daughters, so thank you for that." Daniel stood up. "Daniel, please, not here."
"Why not here? You didn't seem to care about discretion when you were in my father's house with another man." Daniel's voice was shaking, but he kept going. "You want to know the crazy thing? I would have done anything for you. Anything. And you threw it away for what? A guy with better stock options?" Marcus appeared at the table, seeming to materialize out of nowhere. "Jessica Porter, you've been served." He handed her a manila envelope. "Divorce papers. My client is citing adultery, and we have extensive evidence. You have 30 days to respond. I'd get a good lawyer if I were you." Jessica tried to stand, to leave, but Catherine wasn't done. "One more thing," Catherine said. "I work in PR, and I've spent the last few days making sure everyone in your professional network knows exactly what kind of person you are. Your boss got an anonymous email with evidence. Your colleagues, same. That promotion you were up for, I'd say it's probably off the table now. Actions have consequences, Jessica. You just never thought you'd have to face yours." Jessica grabbed her purse and ran, literally ran out of the restaurant in her expensive heels, leaving Daniel standing there. The restaurant burst into whispers, and a few people even clapped. One older woman came up to Daniel and said, "Good for you, son. You deserve better." We left shortly after. Daniel was shaking, adrenaline wearing off, but there was relief in his eyes, too, like a weight had been lifted. "Is it wrong that I feel good?" he asked me in the parking lot. "No, son. That's called justice. There's nothing wrong with feeling good about standing up for yourself." But we weren't done, not quite. Over the next few weeks, everything fell into place like dominoes. Jessica tried to fight the divorce, hired a lawyer who took one look at the evidence and advised her to settle. She moved out of the apartment with whatever fit in her car. The BMW got returned to the dealership. Her job? Well, Catherine hadn't been kidding. Jessica got put on administrative leave pending an investigation into her relationship with a vendor, and by the time that investigation finished, she'd resigned. Travis Brennan's downfall was even more spectacular. His company fired him for ethics violations, and Catherine took him for everything in the divorce. Last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment and driving a 15-year-old Honda. But the real twist came from my private investigator. He called me about a month after the restaurant incident with something interesting. "Mr. Mitchell, I kept digging like you asked, found something you need to know." "What's that?" "Jessica Porter had a previous marriage 10 years ago, before she met your son, divorced her first husband under similar circumstances, caught cheating. She took him for alimony, half his assets, the works. Then she reinvented herself, moved cities, and started fresh. Your son wasn't her first victim. This was a pattern." My blood ran cold. "Can you prove it?" "Already have. Court records, everything. Her maiden name was Jessica Hartley. She's been using her first married name, Porter, ever since." I called Marcus immediately. This changed things. This meant Jessica had committed fraud during her marriage to Daniel, potentially hidden assets, definitely lied on legal documents. "This is gold," Marcus said. "We can go after her for fraud. She could face criminal charges." Daniel and I talked about it long and hard. We could push for criminal prosecution, drag this out for years, make her life a living hell. But Daniel surprised me. "Dad, I just want to be done. I want to move on with my life. Knowing she's exposed, knowing everyone sees who she really is, that's enough. Let's just finish the divorce and be done with her." I was proud of him for that. Revenge isn't about being cruel. It's about justice, about making things right. And sometimes the best revenge is knowing that the person who hurt you has to live with the consequences of their actions while you move forward. The divorce was finalized 3 months after that night in the restaurant. Jessica got nothing. No alimony, no assets, nothing. She moved to another city, but thanks to Catherine's PR work, her reputation followed her. Her LinkedIn profile was inactive. Her Instagram, which used to be full of luxury lifestyle posts, went private and then disappeared entirely. Meanwhile, Daniel threw himself into his work in a healthier way. He got a promotion, actually. Turned out his obsessive overtime had made him one of the firm's top architects. He started dating again, took things slow, learned to trust again. He even started therapy, working through the betrayal and his own tendency to people please. I want to pause here because the next part shows why karma is real and why people who backstab others never truly win. What happened 6 months later will blow your mind, so make sure you're subscribed because these real-life revenge stories prove that justice always finds a way. Hit that subscribe button and let's finish this.
6 months after the divorce, Daniel met someone. Her name was Amy. She was a landscape architect, and she was everything Jessica wasn't. Kind, genuine, secure in herself. She had her own career, her own money, her own life. She didn't need Daniel to complete her. She just enjoyed being with him. Watching them together, seeing my son smile real smiles again, that was better than any revenge. As for me, I renovated the lake house, tore out that leather couch, replaced it with something new, repainted the walls, refinished the floors, exorcised the memory of what I'd seen that morning. It's a family place again, somewhere I can be proud of. The final piece of karma came from an unexpected source. Remember Catherine Brennan? She and I stayed in touch, and about 8 months after everything went down, she called me with news. "Robert, you'll never guess who I saw today." "Who?" "Jessica. She was working as a barista at a coffee shop downtown. I went in for a latte, and there she was, wearing an apron, taking orders. She saw me, and I swear she looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor." "What did you do?"
I ordered my coffee, said thank you very politely, and left a generous tip. The best revenge isn't rubbing it in someone's face, it's living well while they deal with the consequences of their choices. She was right. Jessica had gone from designer bags and luxury cars to minimum wage and public transportation. Not because we destroyed her, but because her own actions caught up with her. The lies, the fraud, the pattern of using people and discarding them, it all came back around. Travis Brennan had a similar fate, lost his career, his family, his reputation. Last I heard, he was working in sales somewhere, a shadow of his former self. His daughters barely spoke to him. Catherine had rebuilt her life, started her own PR firm, and was thriving. She taught me something important. The best revenge is building something better from the ashes. The lake house is peaceful now. Daniel and Amy come up some weekends. We fish, we talk, we plan for the future. Daniel's talking about proposing soon, and Amy already feels more like family than Jessica ever did. She doesn't care about expensive things or keeping up appearances. She just wants to build a life with someone who values her. And my son finally understands what that means. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled things, if I should have just told Daniel immediately, let him deal with it himself. But I don't regret anything. What I did wasn't just about exposing an affair. It was about teaching my son that he deserves better, that he doesn't have to accept betrayal quietly, and that justice is worth fighting for. Jessica learned that you can't go through life using people without eventually running out of people willing to be used. Travis learned that betraying your family for a fling has real consequences. And Daniel learned that he's stronger than he thought, that he can survive heartbreak and come out better on the other side. As for the phone call I made that morning from the lake house, the one to Catherine instead of Daniel, people have asked me why I did that first. Simple. I wanted allies. I wanted information. I wanted to make sure that when everything came out, it came out completely. No half-truths, no he said, she said, no room for Jessica to manipulate the narrative. By the time Daniel learned what happened, I had everything documented, verified, and ready. That's the thing about revenge done right. It's not hot-headed or impulsive. It's cold, calculated, and comprehensive. You don't just strike back. You make sure the person who wronged you can't hurt you or anyone else again. You expose them, you let the truth do the work, and you let natural consequences take their course. The story could end there, with Jessica serving coffee and Travis in a dead-end job, with Daniel happy and me at peace. But life had one more twist. A year after the divorce, Jessica tried to contact Daniel. She sent an email to his work address, a long, rambling thing about how sorry she was, how she'd changed, how she hoped he could forgive her. Daniel showed me the email, asked what I thought he should do. "Do you want to respond?" I asked. He thought about it for a long moment. "No, I don't. That chapter of my life is closed. She doesn't get to reopen it because she's struggling now." "Then don't respond. Some people deserve your forgiveness, but they don't all deserve your attention."
He deleted the email. Didn't respond, didn't engage, just moved on. And that, I think, was the final revenge. Jessica wanted back in, wanted to be part of his life again, even just as someone he forgave, and he wouldn't give her even that. She became nothing, not even a memory worth revisiting. Today, I'm sitting on the deck of my lake house, watching the sun set over the water. The contractor, Mike, did a beautiful job with the renovation. The new deck has built-in seating and a fire pit, and the whole place feels renewed. Daniel and Amy are inside making dinner, laughing about something. The sound drifts through the open window, and it's the best sound in the world. I think about that morning when I pulled into the driveway and saw the betrayal through the window.
how angry I was, how hurt I was for my son. But I also think about how that one moment, that one phone call, set in motion a chain of events that got my son out of a toxic marriage and into something real and good. Sometimes people talk about revenge like it's a bad thing, like seeking justice makes you just as bad as the person who wronged you. But I don't believe that. There's a difference between justice and cruelty, between exposing the truth and being vindictive. What we did to Jessica wasn't cruel. We didn't lie about her, didn't exaggerate, didn't make things up. We just made sure the truth came out completely and let the chips fall where they may. The fact that those chips buried her wasn't our fault. That was just consequence meeting action. My phone buzzes with a text from Daniel. "Dad, dinner's ready. Amy made that pot roast you love." I smile and head inside. The lake house is full of light and laughter and love. It's everything it was supposed to be, everything I built it to be. The betrayal that happened here is just a memory now, one that led to something better. And Jessica, wherever she is, whatever she's doing, she's learning a lesson that too many people learn too late. You can't build a life on lies and betrayal. Eventually, someone will make that one phone call. Eventually, the truth comes out. And when it does, you better hope you've been living a life you can defend. I made that call. I don't regret it, not for a second.